It's Monday, kids. It's time once again for Midnight's Edge in the morning. Quentin Tarantino talks modern Hollywood, and as we predicted, Boba Fett's ship gets a name change. Good morning, kids. How's everybody doing? I hope we got some happy campers out there. I'm Tom Connors, and with me, as always, is Andre the Boss Man. How you doing?
I am good, thank you, and greetings, everyone. Good morning, good evening, good night, depending on where you are.
That's right, indeed. And we also have with us our resident physician, the script doctor, who has the cure for all your entertainment needs. He is not a PhD, but he plays one on TV.
That's right. Thanks so much for having me. I needed the respite. I'd been writing for almost 5 hours before the show started, so I'm glad to get my fingers a rest today.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to talk about... Oh, go ahead, Andre.
Yeah, I also want to say I've been writing like close to 5 hours as well. So those looking for a Phantom retrospective is coming soon.
Oh, I'm so excited for that.
So is Tom, because he has to do the editing.
Yeah, so excited. But we do have some, well, I wouldn't call it exciting, but interesting news today. I think, like I said, I think all of us in our sphere kind of predicted the one bit. I mean, even though they're not changing it as far as I know in the show, we're going to get into that. Slave One has been changed, the name-wise, and we all kind of figured that was going to happen.
Can we even say the name on this platform without that causing an issue? Well, before we get into the Slave One news with everything that goes with it, first, of course, we have to greet our audience. We have Natasha here, our ever loyal wrench. So good morning, Natasha. We have no day, of course, is complete without. We have Nicholas Horton, who says, "Hail and greetings, wrenches."
Morning.
Yes,
we have
indeed.
Stephanie Janacek, and we have 6, and we have Miguel Farrar, and got so many great faces in the chat. We got some super chats already. We've got Chef Nation hanging out in the chat. How you doing? We got a super chat, says $20 from Chef Nation. Holy cow.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. That really helps out a great deal in keeping the lights on. And it gets dark here in Norway. At least it's in about 6 months.
Chef's,
like now is solstice, so yeah.
Hung out with Chef a few times. Sent us a super chat saying, "I want my Mead TV." Well, this is Midnight's Edge in the morning, so you got this part, and then Mead is tomorrow, Tuesday, where you can see myself and Script and Jesse and whoever else hops on by, and we'll be hoping to see you in the chat there. And thank you so much for the super chat today. It's awesome to see you. We also have
we also have another loyal wrench in Willie Woodward. We wanted that pointed out.
Willie is ever loyal, indeed. And we got Fractal Jack. We've got
Valiant Renegade.
Renegade's hanging out. Awesome.
Check out this channel. Another really, really good analytical channel that does genre culture from a financial perspective. And I appreciate that.
We got the Grand Wazoo 42 sending us a super sticker. Thank you so much for that. Do we have any other super chats before those two that we could grab?
I am checking that right away to see if there are some. There are a couple of that we missed out on. Going through it, we have Dark King, who says for $10 Australian. So thank you so much. And he makes a prediction. Studios will start to kill physical media by copying the video game industry. In the next 5 to 10 years, studios will require an active streaming service account to be able to play a DVD/Blu-ray.
There's a plausibility to that. This is something that goes way back, and we discussed this years ago on our stream with Bill Hunt, where I brought up the last format war we had, where I basically got into the whole idea that even though we have no proof for anybody who said it flat out, there was this concern that basically Bill Gates and a bunch of those guys were just trying to kill physical media and get streaming that much sooner and ahead of the game in downloading, digital downloading. It didn't exactly work out the way they wanted, but it sure did kill the growth of Blu-ray, that's for sure.
I think we probably should be careful about saying kill and Bill Gates in the same sentence.
I'm not going to argue with you there.
It might trigger some bots or something.
Yeah, well, maybe I'm testing them this morning.
Well, if the stream suddenly is cut short, you all know why. So,
that's right. And why, if I die, we know why. Joel Rise sent in €2. Thank you so much for that. It says super chat. It is indeed a super chat. Thank you so much for that, yes, Joel.
Thank you
and
so
were
much.
Really glad to see you here this morning. We got Diro on sending us a €1.49 super sticker. Let me see if I can bring up what it is. If I haven't lost it already.
Yeah, because you guys, you can see, but we can't see it. So
yeah, we can't see it
ironically. But I can see it right here. Popcorn. Yes, Durao on-sent popcorn sticker, just as Quran was 42.
And there's about 700 of you watching. If you could hit that like button, we'd really appreciate that. That helps the folks out there in the algorithm know that you're watching, and that always helps us here at the channel and gets more people in the chat as well for you to talk to. And speaking of people to talk to in the chat, we have our good buddy Stephen Otten here, Andre, who sent us a $20 super chat as well.
Yes, thank you so much for such a generous support. We really appreciate that. And he says, "Hail, Andre, Tom, Script, Wrenches, and Chat. I find it hard to stomach that we have a tragedy taking place in Florida, and there are people who would rather spend their time changing the name of a fictional spaceship." And yeah, that is indeed messed up. And on that note, of course, all our thoughts and hopes and prayers go to everyone affected by what happened in Florida, which of course is horrible. And yeah, our prayers and best wishes. Also, speaking of Florida, Pilgrim Media says for $2, "Hail Midnight's Edge. We love your show here in Tampa, Florida." I'd love to go to Tampa one day. I have to go back to Florida myself one time. I've been hearing such awesome things about Florida, so I really want to go now. And yeah, put some flowers down on the location where things went down a few days ago when I'm there.
Do they know anything about? I didn't really hear much about any details. I just know what happened, but did they say anything else about what caused it or what the hell happened exactly?
I have heard the official line is that probably it's some structural damage.
You think? Anyway, thank you so much, Pilgrim Media, for listening. It says, "Hello, Emmy. We love our show here in Tampa, Florida." Well, thank you so much for listening. And yeah, hopefully, if anything, you are fortunate enough to not have lost anybody in that tragedy. And those kind of things I hate hearing about them because they're not good. And we also have all kinds of other folks joining us this morning. We got Here in the Steadfast. We got Six. We got Dearest. Welcome to the chat today. We appreciate you being here. We got Rambam 3000. I think we said hello to him already, but still just the same. Welcome. We got David Stout, one of our members as well, hanging out here. Keely Chow, of course. Byron Dunbar's here. So we had another super chat. We got one from
Merlin's. We have a couple of classic ones. So let's do the classic ones before we get into the current ones. Of the classic ones, I can't get up on screen. Culture Casino is listening in, and he says for $2, "This will be a great listen on my drive northward." Well, we're glad that you choose to spend time listening to us, Culture, and drive safely. Absolutely. And says, "Hi, gents. Hello, everyone," for $5. And Silver Nova points out that the Millennium Falcon is also offensive to eagles. And Mr. Tickle Trunk sent us a doggy super sticker. And with that, we are caught up to the most recent ones. So you can bring those up before we get into the main story.
Merlin's Id sent us $10. Says the Slave One decision is both racist and jingoistic. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, jingoistic, yeah.
Assumes only an American view of slavery, and that is race specific. Slavery is a concept. Disney is racist, and Midnight's Edge kicks butt. Hail. Yeah, we're going to get right into that here this morning, Merlin. or Merlin's it, I should say. I doubt your name is actually Merlin, but if it is, that is so cool, and your parents rock. But we'll get into that just shortly here. And then we got Ed Rojas, if I'm saying that right, says, "Hail, gents, love Midnight's Edge in the morning. This is effing ludicrous at this point. Do these people really want to retcon history and erase everything that's offensive to them? Slave is a word. Love from Costa Rica." Well, hello from Costa Rica. That's
or
what
hello
Jurassic
to
Park
Costa
is,
Rica, rather.
isn't it?
What was that?
Off the coast. Yeah, as I say, JP's off the coast there. And isn't it like the anniversary this week of the third film, I think?
Yeah, so watch out for dinosaurs. Watch out for stray dinosaurs in Costa Rica.
Stray dinosaurs.
But yeah, no.
One thing I could never understand about Costa Rica is all the goddamn dinosaurs.
Yeah, and there's like an accidental tourist says the American goes to the Norwegian to confirm English pronunciation.
I do.
You'd be surprised how often that happens.
But then there's other times where I got to tell him, and he's just like, "Yeah, I don't care."
I have an excuse. I'm foreign.
Yeah, it's like whatever. Or if like he messes something up, we're just like, "Yeah, we're gonna let it go." It's nobody cares. You know. And then we got Lonnie Holcomb coming in here. Hello. Check out Building Integrity channel. He's an engineer. He's pointing out rusted rebar dropped the structure. Okay. So yeah, that's kind of what I was curious about is what happened, because these kind of things shouldn't just happen.
Yeah, we had a structural engineer in Norwegian TV yesterday saying that this shouldn't have happened. I like basically no way. Not like morally it shouldn't have happened, but
no, I know, but I mean,
but this literally physically shouldn't be freaking possible.
But something happened, and that's where my question comes into it, because it's like, how the fuck? But yeah, like again, that's way out of our purview, but we definitely send out all our thoughts and prayers and everything to everybody over there who could be dealing with it and is dealing with it. And if anybody in the chat here has any family members or has been affected by it directly, our condolences to you. And yeah, hopefully we get some answers eventually here. But speaking of answers, Andre, I have not been keeping up with this whole Slave One thing, but when I heard about it, I was like, we knew this was going to happen, because we all I mean, I don't think any of us didn't joke about it. We all
joked about it. We joked about it during when the magnificent ship that is Slave One, a name which is so completely and utterly epic that even I, the one who is not the Star Wars fan, the one that had to ask the critical drinker, hey mate, what's the name of like those squid people at the Mon Calamari? Oh yeah, those ones. Because I honestly didn't know. Even I know Slave One. That ship is iconic on the same level that the Enterprise is, and so is its name. I mean, can you think of a more badass name for a spaceship than Slave One? I mean, I would understand the offense if it was called, like Massa One or something like that. Then I would understand the offense.
Mm-hmm.
But
here's the thing:
like, anyone that has worked with IT, they know that master and slave are pretty basic concepts, even within there. Like, how much are you going to change?
Well, and that's the thing. And as a kid, or I don't know if it's a kid, but as like a teenager, whatever, is, you know, an adult thinking about this, like, oh, the Slave One, and most so a kid, like, oh, there's got to be like an army of them or something like that. That's the way I heard it. I didn't think anything like thinking of it in the sense of the Rachel stereotype of it all. And that's the thing. This goes right into everything we always bring up when it comes to this virtue signaling in Hollywood, and this will feed right into our next big story. But that's just it. These idiots who make these decisions don't realize how much more racist they're coming off by doing such things. And they're becoming predictable at this point.
Yeah, we all saw it coming. But basically what has happened is that I believe it is a Lego playset. And Disney requested that whatever you do not call this by its proper name. Call it Boba's spaceship or something silly and generic like that. And apparently, rumor is that they want to do this across all merchandising and everything like that. Yeah, there's a good alternative name, as Matt McD points out. Unpaid Employee One.
Well, yeah. Well, the thing is that Boba Fett has around 5 ships, each with slave and then a numerical designation. So, and you could get those models back in the day.
Yeah.
There's a couple of them. I think they only did the first 3, but there was a lot more. And yeah, I mean, technically speaking, it's only on the advertising side of things that they're not using the name. They haven't yet integrated this into the actual media itself. But I would not be surprised if that ends up becoming the thing, at least for the Book of Boba Fett or any sort of ancillary publications that are going to come out later on. That may be a whole story about why Boba Fett changed the name or something of that nature. I don't know.
Well, what's stupid is slaves are already established in this universe.
Yeah, it's a big part of the universe.
I mean, in fact, one of our main characters was, I'm a slave and my name is Anakin.
Yeah. And well, he's like, I'm not a slave, I'm a person. Yeah.
I'm not a slave, I'm a person. So like, yeah, this has already been a part of this. So I highly doubt that the name.
Oh, there you have the name. Person 1.
Person 1. Well, that's just it. It's making it more fucking racist. Not once. That was my point. In my entire life, until recent years, or recent months more so, have I ever thought of race when I thought of slave 1. Not once.
No, I just thought it was a really badass name for a ship.
It makes sense. Like I said, it's like, to me, it's like, oh, so there's got to be a fleet of these bastards. That's my first thought. It's not so much, oh, okay, that's a really problematic name. And that's the way these fuckers think. It's getting annoying and revolting at this point. And like I said, it feeds perfectly into the next bit we're going to get into too, but it's like, I get it. It's just a toy for now, but what's the next step, right?
Well, that's where it begins. I mean, how many things started out in merchandising before it became kind of like canonized later on? I mean, even the Batcave came in because of Zorro, but it was like a cereal that brought it in first, and then it was like retroactively brought into the comic from there. Because like these like third-party stuff, they kind of like make a difference, and especially when there's a corporate will behind it. Speaking of corporate will, well, I can get it up on screen. Our good friend Film Lars sent us 200 Danish kroner. Wow, thank you so much. And he says, you rock. Oh, thank you. Rock on Denmark.
Indeed. And then before that, I think we only missed one that I can't bring up on screen, and that was just one. I think it was Pilgrim Media. If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I got that right here. Pilgrim Media says 9/11 coming up. They won't broach that either.
Oh yeah, that's true. And then Troy Pacelli says, since Stephanie Janishek isn't here yet, she was here before. She has heard that it's less about offense and more about some snafus searching slave and oh,
would not be surprised.
Oh, well,
there is another quote unquote toy market that has been sought out for. That's a lot easier to find these days with the help of the internet. That was not.
Well, here's the thing: if you
get in the magazine day,
I'm pretty sure if you add in Star Wars to that name, that's going to filter out a significant chunk of those results.
And it's not been a problem until now.
Leia's outfit, that may still show up. That can be an issue, but yeah.
My understanding, there's some lightsaber toys out there that
I would be more concerned with that. I'd be getting some cease and desist on that shits. But no, like, here we go. Finally, it's been how many years? No, I can understand.
That's actually a good business idea for the, like certain toys.
They already are.
Them as like Star Wars props.
They already are out there. Oh, you just as props? That's a different story. I'm sure at some point some dildo showed up in a Star Wars movie. We just don't know it.
Well, yeah, there's that. It's the Rise of Skywalker, the engineer in the Millennium Falcon there with the no arms.
Oh, go script. He went a long way for that one, but it was worth it. No, I mean, here's my point, though, Andre. The internet has existed long enough that if they were going to do this, they'd have done it long ago. To me, that's a cover story.
The other part too is that Star Wars probably had no intention of doing anything with Boba Fett for a while, And since the purchase in 2012, I mean, Lucasfilm just never cared with regards to that.
Here's the thing, though. Boba Fett is one of the more popular characters besides Darth Vader. Like, I'd argue he's probably the second, if not the most popular character. His merchandise is always sold. He's always had merchandise out there. The Slave One and Boba Fett have always been a popular thing. Even if Lucasfilm was kind of lax on that, don't you think if they were going to have a problem with that, they would have changed it by now, I would think.
I would think so, but from Disney's perspective, because of the show, it's now considered like top of the actual conversation. If it's a good seller but not top of the conversation, they usually don't really care, because then no one's really, it's not being discussed on like that, first tier of topics right now. But with the success of The Mandalorian, the anticipation for the book of Boba Fett, they're probably looking a little more closely at it to make sure that they have a clean appearance for that marketing campaign that's going to be ramping up in the next couple of weeks for that show, for that's debuting the end of this year. And I just think that's kind of like the mentality of it. I would not be surprised if there's some other things out there, Star Wars wise, that we're just not thinking about the top of our heads that could also be altered.
I'm sure there's a few.
Popular, yeah.
But this is kind of the point I'm getting to more so here is like, says here. That's not the only part, though. They don't want people to refer to slaves as slaves anymore. Now they have to be called enslaved people. I mean,
so the enslaved one, then, is that good?
You're not changing anything, though. It's the same fucking thing. You're just adding a word.
Well, again, it's a power play, isn't it? It's like a matter of dominate the language, and you dominate quite a lot.
So we're a slave to their fucking language?
Well, yeah. Yes, exactly.
Mr. Tickle Trunk comes in with $5, says only the USA links the name of Boba Fett's ship to anything historical, and even then, it's only a small percentage of the entire USA. It's manufactured shit. That's agree.
Exactly what it is.
I agree. And again, like this feeds so much into what we're saying, because this is like such a non-story in a way, but it isn't, because it's just like the beginning of more bullshit. Krusty Moko, how you doing, buddy? Says with $2.99 super chat. Watching Euros and ME, a perfect combination. All right, sounds good. And then we got. I'll let you say it this time since I.
Not to make up for it. Says that's not the only part, though. They don't want people to refer to slaves as slaves anymore. Then they now have to be called enslaved persons.
Well, so, we grabbed your regular chat, but thank you for the super chat as well. We do try to get as many of the regular chats as we can. It's not like we're ignoring them or anything like that. So
yeah. And
then we got Merlin's It again coming in with maybe instead of the vessel, they could call Leox's ship Pride. Pride 1. Sorry. Probably said that wrong. Pride 1. MS or PS. Where'd I get MS from that? I don't know. Merlin is my middle name. Well, there you go. So you do have semi-cool parents anyway. Hey.
I think it's pretty cool to get Merlin in there anywhere.
Right? Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like, that's some pretty cool shits.
I should say so.
And we have a few more super chats to get through here. Look at these. Holy cow, they come in real quick. I want to make sure I didn't miss any in between here, because I got
Merlin. Yeah, I'm checking. I'm checking.
The other one I got is Grand Wazoo. So
yeah, I'm checking right now here,
because this does jump on us quite quickly.
Yeah, it does indeed. Let's see.
So between Merlin's Inn and Grand Wazoo.
I'm checking now.
I don't think there was, but I just want to be sure.
Yeah, no, we got one. Erik Runge Madsen sends 50 Danish kroner saying, Millennium Falcon is too predatory. From now on, it's the Centennial Chicken. And Mr. Tickle Trunk also says, reminder for parents looking for slave toys. Keep your safe search on. While Pilgrim Media also points out the Lego toy is selling for $260 today on eBay. Oh, such a shame that Lego doesn't see any of that. I mean, since it's on eBay, it's like third-party sellers. But hey, good business for them.
That's what I always think. It's funny you bring that up, Andre, not to go on a tangent too far. But like, I always think of that when I see these limited runs of certain things, and it's like, you're not gaining anything from them being out there on eBay. and that's really coming down to it because let's be real, Gina's not coming back. But that's the only reason the toys have probably popped up again is A, they saw a plausible lawsuit if she does get any percentage of that, and B, they're probably sick and tired of seeing them go for so high priced on fucking eBay, and Disney wasn't seeing none of that cash. So I'm sure that's one of the only reasons they started releasing them again. But anyway, are we caught up then to Grand Wazoo's €20 super chat here?
Yes, we are.
I'll let you take this one.
Yeah, Grand Wazoo says for €20. Thank you so much. The word slave is related to the word Slavic. The Greeks were the first who history recorded using slavery, and they were Proto-Ukrainians, Albanian, and Balkans. These Vokosos are not only weird, they are uneducated as well. Yeah, of course.
Well,
and they want everyone else to be as well. That's a scary part.
I do have some Disney news that's kind of off topic, but on topic. I guess their stock is up to 200 now. So there you go. So if you're gonna sell now. Sell.
Yeah, well, good job on.
I don't know if it had anything to do with the Slave One announcement, but hey.
Yeah, I kind of doubt it, but still, Chapek has been doing fairly good job at navigating the ship through troubled waters, and they need that share price to be as high as possible. I mean, it's inflated, but that's what they need it to be.
I was just going to say, I think between Black Widow and a few other reasons, that's probably why it's inflated this week. And then Dearest says, Disney is showing they are ignorant of their IP. I think all the studios are. We really ripped into Paramount last week on After Dark. Slave One is Cout Engineering Company. Quat? Okay, yeah. I can't read. Fire Spray 31 Class Patrol and Assault Craft, new name right there.
Sure. I'm surprised they didn't rename the ship the Cargo Hold because Boba Fett says it in Empire Strikes Back.
That's a good point. Stephen Otten coming in again, buddy. How you doing? Says in Death, a spaceship has a name. Its name was Robert Paulson. Oh wait, wrong movie. I stripped for her glory. I don't know about that. I do okay. Now, if I actually sat up here doing like an Andre impression, I could probably do it pretty close. But it's intimidating to do an Andre impression in front of him. It's a little different.
Go for it.
No. I will when I'm ready. Lloyd Buckley sends in that's the 2 pounds, right? And I get those straight wondering why. I try to remember them, but anyway, Anakin needs to check his white privilege. Ooh, but he's a slave, or he's an enslaved person. And then Ralph Hartman sent us a super chat, but it doesn't have any thing in it. So I'm assuming the Google police got you. That's my guess, because chances are you're not sending in just a $10 tip. We appreciate that. If you can kind of just add us what you were trying to say, maybe we can catch that in the chat and we can address it. But otherwise, thank you so much for the donation. And we apologize, but have no control over the Google police. So sorry about that if that's the case. Otherwise, thank you for the tip. I think I might have missed some here. But we can probably get back to those.
Yeah, we can get back to those.
Because let's give our final thoughts on this whole Lego situation. Because there's not really much else to say about it other than it's stupid.
Yeah, that honestly, that about sums it up. But I will say it's a little bit beyond stupid. It's also troubling because they can try to blame, people are accidentally getting sex toys. Well, you know what? Sex toys were there 1 year ago, and 3 years ago, and 5 years ago, and 10 years ago as well. This is obviously about something else, and as Grip Doctor pointed out, anything else is but an excuse and not a very good one at all. So that's pretty weak to be honest. But the scary thing is that they're trying to change fiction that way, that someone decided this is problematic, and I wonder who is it problematic to, and why is it suddenly problematic now? The spaceship has been called that for how long now?
40 years?
40 years, yeah. 40 years, 41 years.
42, 3. something like
Well,
that.
I mean, they did get rid of Song of the South, right? So I mean, it's, and I think they also changed the name from the Slave Leia action figure to something else.
No,
didn't
they've
they?
tried to get rid of her altogether outside of in the film itself. And I'm sure that's just a matter of time. And that has nothing to do with her name, though. That has everything to do with just the fact that she's problematic.
Just male gaze. That's
Yeah.
why. Yeah, no, because that's the thing with like a slippery slope, and we're already on that slope. So it's not a matter of if we do this, then that can set off more. No, it's already started, and we're well on the way down that slippery slope.
Leia, the slave uniform Leia, or whatever you want to call her, that was one of the first things that Disney went after. That's why I remember specifically saying, "Thank God I got my Carrie Fisher poster," because I've got that one of her on her side in the slave Leia uniform. Somewhere's now in a box, but yeah, it was on my wall, sadly, when she passed away, and long before that. So, yeah. Moving on then, did we want to catch up on these super chats first, or do we want to just get into the next bit of news? Because this
No, let's catch up on the super chats because they are related to this topic.
Sure, let's do that instead then. Let's do that.
Mecha J says Boba Fett actor Mark Anthony Austin is not happy about Disney's decision to change the name. He's been posting tweets about his love for Slave One. He has indeed. That's a big part of why so many knew this, because he, as one of, let's be honest, several to have been behind the outfit one way or the other.
Well, he's a special effects guy, if I'm not mistaken, primarily.
Yeah, that could very well be, but again, one thing doesn't have to rule out anything else. But still, it's someone that's been affiliated with it, but then goes on and they talk directly opposed to the party line. That, of course, is going to raise some heads right there. But kudos to him for doing it. And Master Clockwork says, how long before we ban the word robot? You'll get this if you've seen The World's End. Yeah, but here's the thing. The people who run by emotions, they haven't. So they don't know. I mean, we're not talking about the most educated of people here.
I got, and this is thank you to Six. If you haven't given her a wrench, give her one, damn it. Ralph Hartman, here's what he wanted to say, I think. How about they just name it Slav One, like SLAV1, without the E. I don't know if that's what he's saying, like an acronym, or if he's just meaning it like to be.
No, he means, of course, like as in the person from the Balkans or that general.
Oh, yeah.
Because like the Slavic.
Like Slavic. That's what that's why I said it that way. So that's okay. All right, yeah. So if that's what you said, thank you for that. And Google stupid.
Yeah, or have him repaint the ship white and red and call it the Salve One. For like a medical purposes.
Who gives a shit? It's just a
it's a nothing burger of a change, really. Like they should be doing it.
Yeah, it's the implications which are more worrisome than any change directly. But yeah. And then we have Bertrand Kurt Russell, who says, not Slave One, as would say classically chained one.
That's a Friday Night Tight slip up. He was trying to say classically trained actor, and he said classically chained. Everybody's like, whoa. Yeah, he got in trouble for that one. Yes, classically chained indeed.
And Six says, there will probably be an origin story for Slave One in Book of Boba Fett, where they will claim the real name of the ship is Karen. Hi, Tom.
How you doing?
And David Smith suggests, let's change Slave One to Amazon Employee One. Oh, yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. Amazon Warehouse Worker. Doesn't have quite the same ring to it, but
no, it doesn't.
But same difference, I guess.
Well, it's an acronym of awe, so.
Yeah.
What's going to be funny is in 40 years, the robots are going to be like revolting on Amazon because they're going to be treated so badly.
Not enough charge time.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, they'll be bypassing humans, going to robots, and the robots are just gonna be like, "This is bullshit."
And then Mark Whitener says, was Slave 1 ever mentioned in the movies? Guys, was the name ever mentioned on screen?
Not in the original trilogy, but I believe it was mentioned in episode 2.
Possibly episode 2. It doesn't ring a bell. I just knew it from like the Action Toys marketing and the ship essential guides to spaceships in Star Wars.
I just for some reason remember a passing reference to it in episode 2. If I'm wrong or right, please somebody let me know in the chat. We're getting a couple no's, so I'm probably wrong.
Well, there you go. And Adolive Gaming wonders, what about Slave Leia? And yeah, as we already established.
Yeah, we touched on that.
Now, yeah.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, and Marilyn's id says, Slave Leia shall now be sex worker Leia.
This is a newer one right here, but Mr. Tickle Trunk says, Disney Animator 1. They squeeze those people dry.
That they do, for sure.
And then back to the other ones we had. Go ahead. Sorry, Andre. I didn't mean to jump ahead there.
Yeah, sure. Then we have, let's see. I'm just going to move the mobile here so it doesn't like vibrate on the microphone. Hypergiver 2 says, I really do miss having freedom of thought, speech, and expression. Political correctness is fascism disguised as manners. Yeah, it's kind of hard to disagree on that. If anything, I'm surprised that the bots let it through. But yeah, that kind of illustrates your point. And STR Red Wolf says, go even better. Slab 3-1.
There's another one. No, but they let that one go through. What the hell? Go figure. Anyway, continue.
Then we have The Last Millennial says for $4.99, Part 1. Hey guys, Jacob here. A while ago I mentioned that Loki will be good and Marvel can't screw that up. Lo and behold, they did with how confusing. And we're waiting for Part 2. And he says, Mr. Tick. Yeah. And Nelson Smith says, in a decade, the word robot will be an offensive term.
Yeah.
Give it time. And Pilgrim Media says, since politics is downstream from culture, they're doing all this to get under the skin of the patriarchy. Well, the bots must be lazy today. But, yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is usually it's a combination of words and stuff like that.
And then we have Part 2 from The Last Millennial. Part 2, confusing it is. Therefore, I have made the decision to infiltrate Disney, Marvel, and Lucasfilm. How may you ask to be continued? Oh, looking forward to that continuation.
Notice speed.
Next exciting episode of Midnight's Edge in the Morning.
Yeah.
Find out exactly how.
Well, here's another good idea. Chinese citizen.
Ooh. Or well, no, I'm not going there. Apple employee one. But they're too young.
To pick and choose from.
I left enough space in there, right? Yeah. All right, and then you got that one. So the next one up here is, if I can get it right, we've got Nelson Smith. Oh, you got that one. Never mind, you got that one. So I think we're almost caught up then. We got like one or two more, I think, here after that. If this thing would quit jumping on me, here we go.
Yeah, the next one
man.
From the Invisible
It was an
Man.
invisible super chat for a minute there. Prisoners with jobs. It's our Goldblum reference. Oh man, that's too good. Cesario JPN says Mark Anthony Austin, Boba Fett actor, is dropping a ton of tweets supporting his beloved craft. Yeah, and as we pointed out, that's how we all know about this. So yeah, keep speaking. I love hearing the old actors speak out and other people involved. And that's another thing I kept asking, time and time again.
Yeah, because he's not going to be working for Disney again anytime soon.
No,
That's for
no,
certain.
no.
Well, he's doing a live show called No Disintegrations, which is him as Boba Fett, and it's I think a bunch of short films somewhere online. So they'll probably go after him soon.
I'd be surprised if they didn't.
Yeah. And I mean, just like, like the other people who have spoken out. And that's where I've always asked, where are all these people that were involved before? Why isn't Ben Burt a big part of the production team? The fucking voice of R2-D2. The voice of the fucking lightsaber. I mean, almost literally when it comes to R2-D2, because he used portions of his voice to make the noises. But I mean, like literally, like this guy has done every noise in Star Wars and Indiana Jones. This guy has done it. I mean, how can you not have him involved? Because he was just rising up the ranks in Lucasfilm to the point where on the prequels, he wasn't just the sound guy anymore. He was the editor. And he had a bunch of other things he did. And now he's doing the 5-point or the Dolby Atmos or whatever mix for fucking the War of the Worlds for Criterion. Why? Why is he not doing something in Star Wars? That makes no sense. There's about 5 or 6 other people too, but you know what? Just keep them out, and guess what? They're going to start talking up. They're going to start speaking up. They're going to start speaking out, and that's what we need here. Anyway, moving on. Joachim Stark says, "One ship to rule them all." Well, if it's a slave, it's not the ruler, then, is it? So, but we got one more come in here right after that, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we got the one from the Mad Leprechaun who says, "Why not just call the ship the Gimp One?
Bring out the Gimp. Gimp sleeping. Well,
Might
then
as
wake
well.
him." And that's a perfect transition after Merlin's Ids. Super Chat here says, "Disney to Slave One. Yo, name Toby."
Oh, God.
Okay, and with that, now we're going to get into some Tarantino news. And if you didn't catch my little segue there from Pulp Fiction, Quentin, I love this guy. I love him to death. He's my favorite director now of all time. He was before this, but
he fortified his position afterwards, shall we say?
Yellow Flash is in the chat. How you doing, buddy? Says forced labor one. Yeah. Send me a message if you're not busy and you want to hop in. But now we're going to talk about this Tarantino bit. Now, Quentin was on Real Time with Bill Maher, and this is a show I actually used to watch. And what's funny is I quit watching it for the most part back when he dumped on Stan Lee and comic book movies, right? But since then, he's had at least 5 or 6 incidences where he's had guests on and stuff, or his ending monologues have basically made our news in this sphere because he spoke out a lot against this woke bullshit in our entertainment, right, Andre?
And culture, yeah.
And culture, yeah, you're right, Script.
Yeah, well, I think that I prefer him to many of those other talking heads like late night TV.
I know he's kind of annoying, but
because I've learned to dislike every single last one of them. But he has some good points every now and then, and this is definitely among them.
He's a reasonable guy. Yeah.
He also brings on guests that you'd otherwise never hear about with dissenting opinions to the main narrative as well. He's one of the few.
Yeah, so kudos for that. Kudos for that. Of course, he's still deranged in his own ways from time to time, but still, he has more common sense than pretty much anyone else of his peers. So
he's kind of a good barometer. He's also somewhat of a good barometer for the industry. If he's saying something that makes sense, a lot of other people are probably doing it as well because he feels safe enough to do it. To say
that's right, and he was in DC Cab, so he would know. That's a good movie. I don't care. It's stupid, but it's good.
He's also in Pizza Dude, I think, right?
He's been in a lot of bad things. He was also in House 2. But anyway, so yeah, this clip is a little long. We're not going to be able to show it because HBO would have just come down on us like hellfire. But it is a little long, but I did shrink it. And what I mean by that is I sped it up a little bit. So no, Tarantino is not on any more coke than normal. So just so you know,
So just a normal amount.
just the normal amount.
Okay.
He may sound like he's on twice the coke, but that's just because I sped it up by like 10%. But this is a long bit. We got to get through this as quickly as possible here because, you know, it is what it is. But so we'll try not to interrupt it too much as we're going here. But if you guys need me to, just hit pause if you want me to. But I kind of want to get him through his whole point because he's not wrong. There's a few things he's not right about, but for the overall point, though, I think it's like finally somebody else is saying it besides us. So let's get right into this. Let me know if you guys can't hear this.
I have always really appreciated the way you pushed back when anyone tried to stifle you, shut you up, shame you, bully you, corral your artistic license. They tried it with the last one, with Once Upon a Time in the Hollywood, some bullshit about Margot Robbie doesn't have enough lines. And you do what I wish other people would do. Instead of apologizing like a little pussy, you say, I don't agree with your assessment. What's so hard about that? Why can't you teach that to others? Because it's your movie.
I agree. Look, it's even like when like a pressure situation where it's like, oh, okay, your movie's opening next Friday, so that's kind of a pressure situation in in some of the things. So whatever, you don't want to make noise that's not the noise you want to make on the day your movie opens or something like that. But nevertheless, if somebody brings up something that actually is legitimate, I'll even have a conversation with them about it because I'm actually into interesting thought, and I don't have to even agree with you. Oh, but that's an interesting point.
Right.
That's an interesting point, and I'm able to talk about that. But when it's just BS, when it's just bullshit, and
well, it seems like criticism in the recent years has gone to this place of not just, okay, you can criticize a movie, but they seem to be saying, this isn't the movie I would have made.
Oh, no, that's definitely
it's like,
the case.
because you can't.
But yeah.
Because you can't make one and you didn't make one.
Yeah.
It's like,
oh, I had a situation like that where somebody asked me about something. Well, why didn't you do this? I go, oh, would you have done that? Yes, I would have done that. Okay, well, they were asking me something about the Cannes Film Festival. Why didn't you do this at the Cannes Film Festival? Oh, are you saying you would have? Yes, I would have. Okay. But you never would have written that script, and you never would have made the movie, and thus you would never be at the Cannes Film Festival in the first place. So it's a mute argument.
so are you?
But there has become a thing that's gone on. It seems like in this, especially this last year, where what's the word I'm looking at? Ideology is more important than art.
Way more, certainly to the awards.
Yeah. And it's just, it's like, ideology trumps art. Ideology trumps individual effort. Ideology trumps good. Ideology trumps entertaining.
There's two kinds of movies, virtue signalers and superhero movies.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're always, lauding, we both know the 70s as kids.
Yeah.
So we
grew up in it,
idolize it, and you've done.
We lived through the new Hollywood.
Right. But that was a golden age.
Yeah.
Whenever you catch a 70s movie, whether it's 3 Days of the Condor, it's like, oh my God, The Godfather. And are you bullish on the future of movies? Because
well, look, you have to always look at.
Are we going to get back to that place?
Look, this happened. This comes in waves. This absolutely comes in waves. All right, so it's like. Okay, just looking at
here's
the 40s,
where I start to disagree with him.
That was during the wartime, but that's also the time that you had film noir, where you actually, even though with the Hays Code, you had these dark stories that were being told. But then after the war was won, then you had the 50s, which was the first of the completely homogenized decades, where you couldn't say shit if you had a mouthful. All right, and every bestseller, every play that was turned into a movie, if there was anything sexual about it or anything, that's all going to be drained out of the movie. It's going to be weaned out of the movie. It's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. You just always knew that going in. And then to me, it's one of the worst decades in Hollywood is the 50s. And then the 60s, pretty much from like 1960 to 1966 was the 50s part 2. Right. But then what we think of as the 60s starts in about 67, and that's when New Hollywood comes out. Yeah. And that's an absolute positive response to the homogenized 50s.
So it's going to come back again.
Okay, and then it goes into the 70s, but then went into the 80s.
All right.
And that's why you came up with Politically Incorrect, because that was the first. This is basically the 80s part 2, what we're living through right now.
Well, I'll just take one more go at it. There's going to be a new golden age. Please be there and part of it.
All right. So, like, everything he said, I 100% agree with. I'm not so sure about the 80s thing, but we'll get to that. So, Andre, that was a lot to take in, but it's Quentin Tarantino. And like me, he talks a mile a minute and says 20 different things that have nothing
Yeah,
to do with the
exactly.
actual
So,
point.
Tom, before we do anything else, why don't you summarize for the audience exactly what it was Mr. Tarantino said here?
He said that, this virtue signaling shit is bullshit and it comes at the detriment of the story. Even at the main thing he pointed out a few different things, but the thing that really hit home to me was even at the expense of the heroes, which is something we're always talking about. And then Bill just pointed out, like, that's all we have anymore is movies that are about virtue signaling and superheroes. And at this point, the line has blurred, right? Like, and that's where, and he's right. He's 100% right about everything up through the 80s. And like I said, an argument could be made there that, I think he's just confusing the conservatism of the 80s with the 50s. But outside of that, we had plenty of tits, boobs, and tits, babes, and explosions in our 80s movies. So I don't think that was so much of a problem as it was just.
You had some quite a bit of full frontal too.
Exactly. And to me, I feel like the 90s is when the PC era started more so. But he was already a filmmaker. Yeah. And he was a filmmaker then. So, I mean, he was already in the mix of it then. So he wasn't seeing it from the outside like we were. But that's kind of a neither here nor there argument of the point. Other than that, he's 100% right. And I'm so glad that somebody else has brought it up. And not just that, but it's refreshing to hear from somebody from inside the technical bubble of Hollywood. But not just that, somebody like Tarantino who people listen to. I mean, he's not just some Joe Blow like us. It's Quentin fucking Tarantino. He's arguably the biggest director right now of all time. So here you go. I mean, alive other than Spielberg maybe or Nolan. So it's Scorsese would be the only other one I could think of. He's in the top 5, right? Who else can you think of besides him that might be more bigger in Hollywood right now? When people talk, they listen. I mean, this is it.
Few and far between. But the reason Tarantino became Tarantino is because he was not doing the same thing in the 90s that all the other filmmakers were doing. That's one of the things that allowed him to stand out because he was in his own world at that point. I mean, his movies are very much a homogenization of 70s and 80s aspects of it. You got the violence, you got the language, but you got the intrigue, you got the suspense, and you got the quotability of it. And the 90s, like as we were, Tom and I, we were doing this over with According to Christie for a while. We were going year by year through the decades, and yeah, as we started getting into the 90s decades, there were fewer films that we were able to bring to the forefront by comparison to the 80s, and that kind of shows you the tracking of what stood the test of time. And it's just, I would say Tarantino's a little bit right that he's probably melding the late 80s with the 90s when he started coming out to things, because again, as you get closer towards the end of the 80s decade, the movies kind of blur a little bit together with regards to like the topics they're approaching and the action and the characters and the marketing and stuff. They kind of blend in a little bit, and then you get to the 90s where you can almost forget it to a point. And the same thing with the early 2000s. There's not a whole lot that came out that you can really point to and be like, yeah, that defined that era. It's just kind of blur. It's all kind of like a haze and a blur. And what we have seeing now is basically the most extreme of the pendulum swing to to one side, which is pure desperation, just clamoring for people to come to our movie based on things that have nothing to do with the concept of story or character development at all, but on advertising gimmicks. And it's going to swing the other way, and I hope it doesn't swing too far, because we really need to find that sweet spot that we got in the 70s and the early to mid 80s of very inventive stories, thought-provoking stories that just made you want to live in the world, as opposed to just to be a consumer or consume it as something kind of empty. And yeah, hopefully he'll be around to help usher that in with the next generation.
No, yeah, and the other point that I think it gets to more so is that, like Andre and I constantly point out, and you do too as well, Script, and I'm sure a lot of other people have picked up on too, and that is that this whole thing is a manufactured movement. It's not a normal trend. And what Tarantino was talking about with the 50s going into the 60s, into the 70s, and so on, that was a natural trend of things that were happening. You had the tumultuous 60s go from, the typical 50s lifestyle, and Vietnam shook everything, women's lib, the civil rights movement, all these things happening in this short period of time that really shook America, and it changed everything. The music, the culture, the movies. I mean, movies were different than they ever were before, and that's what Tarantino was talking about. But you're right, and that's what I was saying too, is when we get into that Clinton era of the 90s is when the PC culture came in. And like you were talking about with the thing with Christie, is like we got through all these eras and we noticed all this non-forced diversity. Sure, there was a few stereotypes here and there. I'm not going to deny that. But point being, there was still all this diversity that was not forced until we got into like the 90s. And that's where we saw like the 1.0 version of what we're seeing now, at least it felt like.
And to your point, the reason the 50s and the early part of the 60s were so bland from Tarantino's point of view for film is because it's post-World War II. People are trying to find a new sense of normality. And you do that by saying, like, okay, this is safe, this is clean, this is what we are. And you just put that into the narrative because that's what people wanted to cling to sort of find a way of, like, where's our base? Where's our foundation? How do we build up from that? And then when things kind of made a weird turn in the mid-60s, that's when they're like, you know what, we can't hide from ourselves, and so we're now going to expose the dirty, but also expose the heroic, and that's what you get with, I mean, James Bond was introduced in the early 60s, and that was kind of inching its way towards that, kind of like laying a little bit of the groundwork. Then when you get into the 70s, you've got movies like the 7-Ups, which is basically questioning, like, should police really go beyond the reaches of the law in order to get their perp, and playing with stuff of that nature, and which leads into like Jaws and Close Encounters and then Star Wars and then so forth. They're just kind of this big rush of things and ideas coming through. Yeah. And then what ended up happening is that generation, for some reason, the ideas of that didn't really catch on onto the previous generation, or the following generation, sorry. And you have those people that were the golden age of Hollywood are essentially burning out, and they were burning out in the 90s, and we saw that with Spielberg, we saw that with Lucas, we saw that with Scorsese to an extent, but not so much because he has kind of bounced back a little bit. And yeah, you're just like, who's stepping into those absent places? And Tarantino was one who was very much outside of the studio narrative of the decade that he started in. Christopher Nolan just shocked people with the visuals and stuff, but I have my own gripes with how he takes things on. But there's not a whole lot of new filmmakers to this day that have the same impact or changing of the industry as what happened, 45 plus years ago.
Yeah, indeed. And Andre, I know we got you got to take off for a little bit here in a little bit, but I want to get your take on this too before you go. So what I mean, like we've been saying,
I'm really glad that Tarantino is choosing to speak out, because I know with 100% certainty that there are more people in the industry who feels the same way that Tarantino does on these matters than that doesn't. But everyone is quiet. Everyone is afraid to speak out because they know that if I talk out and it's just me, they're going to come for me. I'll be canceled. My career is done. So everyone, they have to be quiet. They have to play along. And all it takes for, as we've established, is that all it takes for evil to win is for good to do nothing. And doing nothing is basically being quiet and participating. And Tarantino will have none of that. He was always a maverick. He was always a maverick behind the camera. And now he is apparently behind the scenes in Hollywood at large as well, because this is him speaking out against new trends, which are very, very disturbing, and they seem to be accelerating. And the only people that wanted to accelerate are crazy, crazy people on Twitter. The same people that would have been called brown shirts in, Germany in the 30s. They are the people. The historical equivalent of them are the ones cheering this on. And everyone else, the majority, are just being having it subjugated on them. That's completely messed up.
Yeah, and Cartoon Man asks, what did Tarantino say? Well, if you want to hear the truncated version, he was speaking out against this woke bullshit in Hollywood and culture in general. But if you want, we have the entire bit. If you back it up, you can hear the whole thing. And Paulie, not to jump ahead here, though, our buddy brings up a great point here. Says Tarantino, now we need other visionaries to follow suit. Rodriguez, Ridley Scott, imagine, dare I say, Jordan Peele saying something like this. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, what is needed is basically more people standing up to this insanity.
Oh yeah, and Robert Rodriguez has also been like an outsider as well. I mean, he's called Troublemaker Studios for a reason. That some of the people don't like how he has an approach to film or some of the stories he wants to tell. But I mean, I can't think of a film he's made that I did not enjoy. So I mean, he's.
You know what? There's one thing about Rodriguez that I do not like, that I hold against him.
Oh, okay.
Where's my Fire and Ice adaptation from Frank Frazetta? I've been waiting for that thing for 15 years. 15? No, 16 years.
16, yeah.
I've been waiting for Frank Frazetta's Fire and Ice by Robert Rodriguez. That's a dream movie for him. I mean, he would have given us a great Conan. Of course, the best would have been Princess of Mars, when he was attached to do the John Carter movie. How amazing would that be? Like anything like Planetary Romance or Sword of Sorcery. I mean, this guy, Robert Rodriguez, he's so good. So good.
He's also hands-on. He does directing, cinematography, special effects.
He hasn't made any such movies. And imagine like him having some of his friends, you know who I'm talking about, as the death dealer.
Mm-hmm.
He's too old now. It can't happen anymore. My God, we all missed out. I hold that against him. Of course, I hold it more so against Weinstein, because he was the one who kept him busy with all other kind of stuff.
It's not only that, but it's also the fact that some of the powers that be, just because he pitches, and some of them just don't have their own issues with him. I don't know what all those are. I don't know what they could be, because I mean, I know a little bit about him. I've worked with people that have worked with him and that have gone to school with him, like back in the day, and they all have positive things to say what he is, as who he is as a person. So I guess because of his own convictions, that rubbed some of the people with the money and the decision-making power the wrong way, and they halt him from doing some of the stuff that he might otherwise be absolutely fantastic at.
Yeah, exactly. He's they're so good. But again, I value immensely him coming forward and speaking out, and especially in such a public fashion. And that's also something that I really like about Maher. Yeah, some of his takes are, in my personal opinion, shockingly bad. But other times, he's really, really spot on. And this would be one of those times.
As I said earlier, he's somewhat of a barometer. If he says something that... Because the other part, too, is, and this one thing that I know from him, because I knew one of the writers that used to work on his show, is that he loved going into all over the country and just figuring out what's the actual deal happening around him, because he knows that when he lives in California, he's in a bubble and he's not getting all the story. And the fact that he makes an effort to go out and do shows and talk and interact with people in rural areas and what quote unquote red states and all that stuff is something that you don't get a whole lot of for people in his position of influence and accolades in the industry. Like he still holds on to that. And that's probably why we're able to see him hit some things like right on the head here and there, as opposed to some of the other talking heads on their own shows where it's just all whatever they feel should be the thing, and they're going to promote that as truth as opposed to actually analyzing the things around them.
Yeah, indeed, that's exactly right. Couldn't agree with you more. And let's see then, what else do we have? Then we have Mexican Iron Man, who our good friend Mike, who says for $15, you guys are on fire today. As I posted on Twitter, when Tarantino drops the hammer, then the alarm has sounded. Let us rejoice, rally, and rage to take back the nation and fandoms we all once loved. And ActionCom also says, is Tarantino being brave because he's on his last picture? Yeah, this is actually a good point, because that was something else that they spoke about in this interview with Maher, namely that he only has one movie left, which is something that
That's his own
Maher disagreed with.
thing.
Yeah, his own self-imposed thing, where he's decided that you can only make 10 movies. Whereas Maher is like, come on, dude, give us more. You are so good. No reason to stop at 10.
Yeah, Tarantino just wants to exit on a high note, and I don't begrudge him for that. But something just tells me from his personality, as much as he'd love to do his 10 and then never do something again, he's going to get inspiration, and he's going to probably do something else afterwards. It just feels like something he would do. It does, just from the stories I get from him and stuff. Like, he, as disciplined as he is, he's already, like, the last 3 movies he's done are somewhat Western themed specifically, and that's approximately a third of his entire portfolio. And he hasn't even attacked the other two genres that he is also a huge fan of, sci-fi and noir. So I don't think, it would be amazing if he pulled up his last film as a sci-fi noir, but I don't know if that's going to be the case or not. But I suspect that once he does his 10th film, we're going to have a gap, but he's going to come back with one more. And yeah, that would be...
The world will be better for it.
I think so, yeah.
I don't think we're ever going to see a Star Trek movie, but hey.
Yeah, no, that's not going to
Definitely
be
not.
Yeah,
But
no,
Douglas Nelson,
happening.
our buddy, sent me this one, though, so I thought I'd share it.
Yeah, that's a very, very good point right there. Also, Douglas Nelson points out that I don't think you'd want to see a live-action Fire and Ice in the current era. Rodriguez wouldn't be allowed to do it right today. No, but he'd be allowed to do it right in 2007, in 2009, 2014.
But speaking
He'd
of
be
the devil,
right to
Douglas
do
Nelson,
it all those years, and didn't happen.
Yeah.
Now is when there's reason to worry. Yeah.
But yeah, thank you, Douglas, for the super chat and all your art you send in. Appreciate that.
Yeah, Douglas is awesome.
But yeah, so frankly, I think Paulie had the big point here. This is hopefully the beginning of a wave. We need other people besides Tarantino to speak up. You need other filmmakers. You need people with prominent voices, not just, guys like at the low level bitching about stuff. But yeah. I know we have some super chats here though that we can start catching up on. Besides the one that we just got from Douglas, we have one we can bring up on screen here, and then I'll swing back around. We got ActionCom. Says Tarantino's being brave because he's on his last picture. Yes and no. I don't think it would matter. He's outside the system enough that he could give a fuck. Like I love, like they even brought it up in the interview with Mar, where they're like, "Oh, you have this movie, and then Margot Robbie doesn't have enough lines. Don't you feel like she's just being used as like a prop or whatever?" And he's like, "I reject your hypothesis." And she's like, "What?" He's like, "I don't agree with your assessment." And moving on, like he's just like, "Whatever, fuck off. I don't care what you're saying. It's my movie. Shut up." Like you're not accurate. Like they even tried dumping a bunch of shit from Kill Bill, I remember, on Quentin. And a lot of that came out to be, no, that wasn't so much him as it was other things that went on, and that was totally dealt with at the time. So like this is, I wouldn't say he's uncancelable, but they can try, and I just think he'll flip them off and just tell them go fuck themselves. What do you guys think?
I think you're completely right. I think that he's as close as it gets to uncancelable. I mean, just look at him and his usage of the N-word. And he gets away with it. He gets a complete free pass. And like you had like some reporters that I remember once there was a reporter that tried to bust him on it, but unfortunately for him, Samuel L. Jackson was there and tore that reporter a new one.
Yeah.
And then Jeremy Smith. Let's rename it Disney would like to thank. I'm not even going to say that out
What he's saying is that instead of naming Boba Fett's ship Slave 1, Disney would rename it. Thank you to the authorities of the Middle Kingdom, where they gracefully let us film this close to the camps where people go to concentrate very intensely.
And then we're going back to ones we had before. Sorry for the wait, guys. But Nelson Smith, or wait, we got ones before that. Sorry. James, my private chat is even being a dick today. Like, it still says I have a message left, but I can't either get to it or it's not refreshing or something like that. But James Nichols says, I'm sure on her way out, she'll ensure it will be called the Kathleen Kennedy one. Oh, I don't know about that. That would not be good for her. Then Nintendo Power sends in $5. We was Kangs and shit one. I'm going to get canceled for that one, but thank you. The Nelson Smith says there are still good filmmakers out there. It's the audiences that have left. No filmmakers today can have the impact that the 70s had. That's an interesting observation. I can't say I necessarily agree with it.
It's a very big task for current filmmakers today to achieve. But it's not impossible. That's the other part. You never know.
The pool is much bigger. That is true. As opposed to back then, you had maybe like 100 movies a year come out of Hollywood. And now that's almost the average for every studio. They pump out like 50 plus movies a year per studio. So
pretty much, yeah.
I mean, it's a big change.
Yeah. With that, gentlemen, I have to take my leave right now. But don't go anywhere, everyone in the chat, because Tom and Script will take you through the rest of proceedings.
Yep, we got a few more super chats to get through, and hopefully we can get them all here. And I don't think if I can get them, I don't think my private chat is updating. But hey, well, as soon as I get to where I'm at, then maybe Script will have to help me here. But we'll get through these folks. I think it updated now, so I think we're okay.
Roger H gave us a 199 thumbs up.
Yeah, I got that one. All right, okay. Awesome, and thank you for that. And I don't think it would be a stream without Roger H's thumbs up. Just keep it where it's safe. Don't don't put it nowhere it's not supposed to be. Nelson Smith said there are still good. Oh, we got that one. Latino, we got that one. Spider Unlimited says Tarantino is doing now what Kubrick did in the 50s and 60s. That's not a bad
comparison. That's a
comparison.
Actually, yeah,
that's a pretty good comparison. I agree with that one. And then we got Mexican Iron Man. Our buddy Mike says, you guys are on fire today. As I posted on Twitter, when Tarantino drops the hammer, then the alarm has sounded. Let us rejoice, rally, and rage to take back the nation and fandoms we all once loved. Yeah, I hope some fiery passion comes out of this. We need to see more movement in Hollywood, though. I think Paulie's right. It cannot just be
can't just be one person.
Yeah, it can't be Tarantino because
And the other part too is whoever says it also has to believe it. That's the other part. Right. There has to be some genuineness. Like that's why I buy it with Tarantino. I believe he's part of that. I mean, yeah, I know he's politically on the left a little bit, but he's also very much a passion of film. So he doesn't really want to compromise that, and he knows not to put his own stuff to compromise that into what he wants to do. So that's something that's pretty important, I would say.
It's funny you mentioned that because he'd normally be probably like a normal lefty in a normal world, but since things have swung so far, I mean, he's almost rightly. You watch the next week or so, they're going to try and cancel his ass.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah, most likely.
I wouldn't be because I guess somebody had said in the chat earlier that MSNBC was already going after him, which is funny. But anyway, all right. So we got the Jeremy one. Thank you for that one, and then we got Samoan Pirate who says, "What filmmakers would you say, or would you consider prominent enough today to possibly say anything?" Oh, well, all the ones that Script brought up were great examples. You'll never get somebody like Spike Lee to do it, but if he would say something to that effect, it would help. Like if he would actually get out there and say, a lot of this crap is not going to help any of, anybody at all. But he's so fucking deep into that world that he probably believes the shit they're shoveling. Script, other great examples you could think of possibly though, besides like maybe Nolan or, we need somebody who isn't white to say something. That's one of the main things, I think. So Jordan Peele and a couple of those were mentioned. I think those would be good ones.
Yeah, I mean, he would be one. There's not a whole lot out there because again, the directors themselves, the ones that are coming now,
Tyler
don't
Perry,
have the
maybe?
legacy or the impact yet. They haven't built that reputation. So usually you're gonna have to look at the decade of the 90s and 80s of who popped out there to go in. So like John McTiernan, he's not prominent anymore, but he's still around. He could say something, but that might actually help other people want to finance whatever he's interested
I was
in.
going to say that's the problem. Is a lot of these would be old white guys. You need like Tyler Perry. You need like Jordan Peele. You need Robert Rodriguez. You need anybody who isn't white.
Denis Villeneuve, you can't even have him do that because
not
again,
really.
he's a white Canadian, French Canadian.
But no, yeah, basically there's your answer. There's any women or non-white directors and filmmakers. They got to get out there and they got to say something. It can't just be Quentin.
Catherine Bigelow maybe would be.
Yeah, that would be a nice one. That would help. We need some common sense. That's the main thing. And I like how you said it before a while back, Script. It's not common sense anymore. It's super sense.
Yeah, because it's so rare.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on with super chats. Merlin Zid says the Iger one, I think is how he's
Uger one. Yeah, but
Uger one. Mihan sends in 20 South. I think that's SEK. Right?
Yeah,
South African Rants.
Maybe.
Tium versus Jerome. I think that was probably one for Andre, and I can't. No, actually, isn't that's Swiss francs, isn't it?
Oh wait, yeah, it is.
Yeah, that's Swiss. And Andre, of course, is not here to do the joke properly, so I apologize for that. And we move on. Sorry about that. Mr. Poe says Star Wars ship renaming has been done before. Darth Vader's Star Destroyer, the Executor, was renamed Super Star Destroyer on the toys.
Well, his Star Destroyer was the Executor, and it was also the Super Star Destroyer class. But yeah, the toys just called it the Super Star Destroyer because the name was never mentioned in the film. And at the time, the advertisers didn't really know.
Right. Well, that is good to know. And then the Mad Leprechaun sends in $5. Says, "Here's a spicy name for Slave One, the Cotton Picker one." Ouch. That's not a good. No. Ram Pam 3000 sends in 10 pounds. Thank you so much. People remain silent because they feel isolated. If they see others speak out and survive, then they'll realize they aren't alone and can speak out too. And then the avalanche will start. Well, yeah, that's what's going to be funny is if this starts almost like the Me Too movement did, because that's kind of what kicked a lot of this crap off. And I'm not saying that, the Me Too movement wasn't something that needed to happen, but instead of becoming listen to women, it became believe women. Or believe all women, not just listen to all women. Listening is one thing, and then you need some proof, though, to back some of these things up, because a lot of it's, whatever. And then now we're getting to the same kind of thing here. It's the same thing with Tarantino. We got to see him come out there, and we got to listen to him. We got to listen to others. And hopefully enough people come out and have enough stories where they can say, enough's enough. This is it. Me too,
Yeah.
I can't make my movies. No, I'm not trying to equate two very with one serious thing with something that may be a little bit less serious, but it's still kind of the same thing in a weird way. I mean, there's a lot of parallels, I think, there to be true. But anyhow, 6 says, "Believe all wham in one." That's what Disney would call it. We left off with
Pablo Papano.
Pablo Papano says it's a smart move on his part with his long-time relationship with Weinstein and use of the N-word in films. He'll be canceled soon. QT is very woke, very anti-police. Peele is super woke. Well, here's the thing. Yeah, he does have a history with Weinstein, but he took off on him. He's no longer been with him for a while, and I don't think I don't know if he's ever denounced him necessarily, but
I mean, the thing is,
never spoke out in support of him. That's for sure.
That is true. The other part too is that there were a lot of people that did work for Weinstein that just did not know because, again, if you're a man and you're a director and you're busy working on your own film and Weinstein's doing stuff adjacent to that, you don't find out unless the other parties involved tell you. And that's kind of half and half because it wasn't really the people that were working on the films that knew about it. It was the people who were associated with those that were working in the films that had interactions with Weinstein for that. And those stories did travel pretty fast in the late 90s. And that's kind of, I mean, and Weinstein and Tarantino had some butting heads, especially with their mutual friend at the time, Robert Rodriguez. If you don't know, like the only reason that whole Grindhouse thing happened was because there was some sort of like apology going on at that time between those Rodriguez and Weinstein. They did not get along too well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm willing to believe, or at least I can give the benefit of the doubt that a lot of people did not know what the hell was going on because Kevin Smith was another one who turned around and sued Weinstein later, and he had the perfect opportunities to say something. And if anybody knew anything about it and it was going to say something, it'd be him. And so I'm willing to give Tarantino the benefit of the doubt that he was not aware of it enough, or at least did not have enough solid proof to say anything.
Or learn something about the situation where it couldn't really be considered as treacherous as the other acts that have been done.
Yeah. Now Rodriguez is a different story because it crosses over with him personally, but that's not a rabbit hole I'm going to get down into right now.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, as far as Tarantino goes, I think he did the right move by moving away from Weinstein prior to all this stuff coming out, from my recollections. So same thing with Kevin Smith and a few of the other Weinstein boys from back in the day. I'm trying to remember who else there was. There was those three. There's a couple other ones too, but I don't hold any of them responsible for that kind of a thing. That I don't think they were close enough with Weinstein for it to be kind of like
to be participants, so to speak.
Yeah, participant. That's the word I'm looking for. And yeah, everybody knew. It was kind of like one of those open secrets in Hollywood. But again, like we're pointing out, you still have to be able to prove something like that. And if anybody was going to drop the bombshell, it would have been Kevin Smith because he at that time had nothing to lose.
And the other part too, like the difference between like the casting couch and anything else is the fact that it's predicated on the willingness of both parties. And that's the thing that's what makes it really a contentious aspect of the industry. And it's why, like in some areas of town, it's pretty much vanished, but in other areas, it's started back up all over again. And it's something that has to be changed from both sides, from people at the top and people at the bottom, just not agreeing to that type of relationship. Because personally, my philosophy is that sex is not a currency. And I have been in productions where I have pulled out of, the weird phrasing of this, but I have removed myself from productions when I find that type of act happening, and lobbied for people to also not participate in that stuff as well, because it's degrading to the concept of what you're trying to do. It's just, you want to tell a great story and entertaining, and you want to earn accolades for valuable things, and you don't want to exploit people in that manner because it hurts the product itself.
Yeah, and as Ben Saxon points out here, if I was going to look at anybody, I'd be worrying more about like assistants, like the one that's working for KK right now, maybe. Perhaps.
Enablers.
Because usually when the stories come out, we heard, it was always someone in between. It was one of his assistants and stuff. Doc Dirge says, Tom, don't be a stooge all your life. If we knew normal people would have no connection to Hollywood at all, it stands to reason people in Hollywood knew that was curling going on. Come on. No, I didn't say that. I said it was an open secret. It's just like fucking Bill Cosby. But what are you going to do without any proof? That's the thing. And like I said, the thing is, if a lot of these guys knew for sure or knew anything that they could specifically go out there and say, it's not for them to say necessarily either.
Because this is a deal on a relationship. That's the other part too. It's not there. I don't know of many stories. I only know a couple of compulsions, but some of those people got away and reported it. But most of the time, it's kind of an agreement, which is also a travesty. And that's the other thing you have to realize is that if it's an agreement between two consenting adults, it's technically not a crime.
Yeah,
and
unfortunately,
that's how it was
yeah.
treated in that time, and it still is to a degree.
It's a very slippery slope, and
Is it ethically wrong? Absolutely. Is it
Absolutely.
legally wrong? That's where you have to get into the minutia of things.
and at the same time, you know, I mean, he's sitting in. he went to prison, so whatever. I mean, it is what it is in the end. So I'm sure there's a lot of people who got away with a lot of shit. So anyway. And he says, "Come on, Tom. Where in the holy hell do you think the porn got the idea of the casting couch? Harb is the only guy doing it. No, it's not.
No.
That's my point exactly.
He's not the only one.
He's
doing
not
it.
the only one. So why is it like? Why are you acting like it's? No,
He's not
just
the
only ones
orchestrator
who
of
got
this.
fucking caught. That's
Yeah.
all. He lost his power. Just like I've said this before. The only guys that have had this shit happen to him are just ones that have lost their power, and all the people that came out against Weinstein and showed up in court were people that never had a career anyway. And that's why they were pissed at him. And under any normal circumstances, I hate to say it, it's one of those situations it probably would have got tossed out if it wasn't in this era, because it was such circumstantial shit. And like Script was saying, it was like predicated on relationships and crap like that. And it's very hard to prove that kind of stuff when people are in a relationship. Now, do I deny it's happening? No, but I'm also not going to sit up here and start victim blaming either. And that's the next side of it too, as well. So let's move past that. And I don't want to argue with somebody in the chat. Last Millennial says, conspiracy. I think the reason these studios allow this ideology stuff is to prevail so much is because since the Me Too of Harvey, they use this shield to distract many other Harveys. Well, and I brought this up before, is we've all known this shit. Anybody who's worked in like the normal world outside of Hollywood, Washington, D.C., and corporate America doesn't have to be told, by the way, don't grab your coworker's ass. By the way, don't be racist. By the way, you know, all this other bullshit that these people are virtue signaling on right now. And that's why I've always said is that's where these problems exist still. And that's why they think it's such a problem, because the rest of the world doesn't have these problems so much, especially in America. I know most of you, I've asked it in plenty of chats. It's like, please, how often have you really dealt with a sexual harassment or a racist lawsuit in a normal civil sector job? It doesn't happen that often. It's such a rarity because most people don't deal with this kind of shit on a normal basis. They don't have that kind of time on their hands, first of all. Second of all, they have a life to live, and they don't have the ability to just sit there and fucking,
Not only that,
exploit
they're more
people
subject to,
like that.
Yeah, they're more subject to consequences because
Exactly,
there's not a whole lot of money throwing around in those sectors. There's
That's
a lot
what
of
I'm
money,
looking for,
granted,
yeah.
but not to the point where a massive multi-billion-dollar conglomerate can just hide it with some payoffs or clever legal kung fu, so to speak.
Right. And that's the thing. Something can be an open secret all day, but unless somebody else comes forward or there's any proof, there's nothing you can do. I mean, Tarantino could have went out there all day and named all kinds of names, but if those people didn't come out and back him up, then all he's doing is putting people's dirty laundry out there that they may not necessarily want to be out there. And it's a big, shitty situation. But hey, Bill Cosby's in prison. Fucking Weinstein's in prison. There's many more that have been outed on that part. And things will change eventually, but that's the areas that need to be concentrated on. And you're right. I think it is a big fucking distraction. It is a big ass distraction from the real point. And it's the same thing like I've said before. For years, it was always a class thing and not a race thing. It was always us against the man. Well, now they just put white in front of the man. And it's white man instead for some reason. And it's just to distract us. It's so that they can move the finger from away from them. And especially when it comes to Washington, and I don't even want to get into politics. But no, like that's what corporate America, politics, and Hollywood are the only places this shit still really exists at some mass level, as far as racism, sexism, all that shit, classism even. So, I mean, really, I think that's the point that Tarantino's getting at too, is like the shit just needs to stop. I think we all feel that way. That's why we're here. Mr. Tickle Trunk says, when you accuse with no proof, it only hurts your own career, and perpetrators learn how to hide better. Evidence is key. And that's the thing. You think, even though it was an open secret to a point, if they had anything to where it would be prosecutable, it would have come out. And I'm not saying that money doesn't talk and bullshit walks. That's the name of the game, and that's the way it works in this world. And these changes need to be made, and that's where we keep saying it's not us, it's you guys that are making these movies that are the problem. You guys are the ones that are harboring all the fucking horrible people and allowing this shit to go on. And as long as they're on the right side of politics, they just let it happen. So it is a big cesspool, as Raptor just pointed out. Yep, they all are. The corporate America, DC, and Hollywood, where all the money lies is where all the problems are. But I think we're caught up on super chats, are we not?
I think there's
I missed
two.
Did I miss one or two?
There's Merlin Zid and an Augie Ben Doggy.
Okay, let me see here. Okay, we got Script. This one's for you.
Oh, okay.
From Augie Ben Doggy. When are you going to cover the next season of Picard? Well, will you cover? Sorry. Not when, my bad. Will you cover the next season of Picard?
If I'm not working on something else, yeah, most likely. I still got to finish out Star Trek Discovery and The Mandalorian. But again, I'm working on productions at the moment.
Why would you do that?
Well, I've got a lot to say about that last episode of The Mandalorian. And
I didn't talk about Mandalorian. I'm talking about Star Trek.
I got a lot to say on Star Trek Discovery.
I've erased that from my brain.
That's healthy.
Not really. Merlin Zid says, I get the feeling a lot of execs in Hollywood listen to their crazy commie kids to make up for ignoring them for other 99% of the time.
If they ignored their own kids, they're not listening to them as adults. However, those kids have probably got jobs with their friends, and those friends are probably listening to them. So
you're not totally wrong. I think that, this is kind of a bleed down. I think more of it has to do with trying to be hip and with it, is what Hollywood tries to do.
And again, because they don't leave their bubble, they only get a very small fraction of information. So if again, it's basically, if you're only getting information of one point of view, one perspective, that's what you're going to believe is true. And you have to sort of break that habit and go, into uncomfortable territory to see what other people's takes are, because that way you get a more broad sense of what is happening around you. But that takes a lot of work. And there's one thing that you learn about the industry, especially something like Hollywood, is the less work, the better. And that they just don't want to, not a whole lot of them want to use, put in the effort, because that's too hard. They have better things they want to do with the money that they have earned at this point. So yeah, that's another big issue.
And then this is the thing. PC culture. That's the only reason I think it mainly is because it has become the in thing. And in Hollywood, they try to follow the trends. Now, that's a best case scenario. Worst case scenario is they're doing it for all the bad reasons we said, distraction and other reasons, and it could very well be. Hey, Elaine, how you doing?
Hey,
we've had a lot of great people pop up in the chat, and we're happy to have had you all here today. And since I think we are now officially caught up on super chats,
I think so.
Don't expect Andre back anytime real soon. I do want to thank all of you for being here with us. It makes a big difference. As we say before, thank you so much for the super chats. Thanks for sharing out the links. Thank you for hitting the likes. Just thank you for being you. Even if we disagree necessarily, I'm not even mad at anybody when I disagree with them. It is the way it is. It's how we get through life. It's how we learn different things. I'm never right all the time either. Script Doctor is usually right. He likes to remind me.
That is not true, but I appreciate the compliment.
No, but now you usually know if I don't know. But no, I want to thank everybody on behalf of Andre as well. Check out Script Doctor's channel. He does do stuff over there, even though he's been busy lately. Do you have anything in the pipeline that you may be having coming up anytime soon?
I'm probably, the one thing soon I wish I had a date for, but yeah, I'm definitely going to finish off the Mandalorian first. And then, when I'm done all my assignments in H-Town, so to speak, I will be, finishing off Star Trek Discovery, and hopefully in time for the premieres of the other, the rest of the series that's coming out later. I still think Star Trek Discovery Season 4 is coming out in 2022 sometime, not this year as they tote, so to speak.
And no, Doc Dirge, I'm not mad at you. I don't have time or energy to be mad at people. It's not worth my time. Not only, I'm just glad you're here to listen. I like to hear other points of view. And if I got pissed off at everybody's opposing point of view, it'd be a bad life to live. And that's the type of life that these people live. Hey, Snowdub, you got here right at the end of this. I know it's an early show for us, but that's because Andre had to take off. And there wasn't a shit ton of news. This Tarantino business kind of took over everything.
Yeah. Oh, actually, speaking of Polly,
Yeah.
I don't know what my plans are tonight with my girlfriend yet, but we're gonna try and squeeze in an early thing, covering the Lois and Superman and Lois, a couple episodes of that tonight. So pay attention to me on Twitter. I'll retweet that out when we're about to go live. So yeah, we're gonna do a little recap of that because I mean it's an okay show for CW.
That says a lot. Grand Razoo 42 says, when comes Picard season 2 out? I don't know if that was English, but hey, Paulie has a stream to do then. They haven't announced when it's coming out yet. But I'm assuming it'd probably be either later this fall, maybe beginning of next year, by the fact that they're filming still, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
That'd be my guess. When did the last one come out? Like November last year, wasn't it? Or the year before? What the fuck?
I think so. Well, they started filming. Yeah, they started filming November.
Because they got disrupted by everything, but
yeah, they took a break and then they picked up. I do know they finished filming a little bit over a month ago because one of my friends who works in set design was super excited to leave and work on another show, and because she told me she'd been working on them since the beginning, but never told me any other time we met because she was under a contract to not talk about it. So
there you go. Last Millennial says, script, how do you feel about about John Cho playing your favorite X-Men Forge? Love John Cho.
I love John Cho too, but I don't. Forge isn't Asian. I'm pretty sure he's Latin. But I might be wrong again. Like Forge is one of the more interesting X-Men characters I like. I don't know a whole lot about him, but he's definitely one of my more favorite of those types. I don't know. That's a weird one. If whoever's working on that film and they think that John Cho is the best one for the job, let's see how it happens. But that's kind of weird. Yeah,
Ford is Native American.
Native American. I thought he was like Bartram from Star Trek Voyager, that guy, because he's part Latin and part Native American. I thought that's what Forge was, but yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's about it.
Say Ben Saxon wants to tell me his Patrick Stewart story. Well, guess what, Ben? The perfect opportunity for that will be one of our member streams, which I believe we're due for one. So keep an ear out for that. We'll drop the info on that. It'll also drop in the members bit to let you guys know we're going to do that. And we have members on, and we get to hear you guys' stories and get to know you guys and get to ask us questions directly. It's a lot of fun. And we also have other goodies coming along, like more Norse mythology and stuff like that. And then Last Millennial come in with one more super chat and said, "Sorry, I didn't know he was Native." Well, okay. You didn't have to pay for that, but we appreciate that. We appreciate all the super chats, and as I reiterated, I'll reiterate again. We appreciate you guys being here. If it wasn't for you guys, we wouldn't have a show, and you guys make it great. And he's of the Cheyenne tribe specifically, so there you go. Parallax has a good question here real quick before we leave, though. With Amazon in control, is it possible the direction of the show will change? Which show is that?
If it's Picard.
I don't know how in control they are. That's what I thought he was talking about control.
As I mentioned on another Midnight's Edge a while back with Kamran Pasha, I think it's what's going on with Secret Hideout and Bad Robot is they're doing like a whole bunch of front load costs to make money first and then doing whatever the heck they want after the fact. And I think that's part of the deals they had with Netflix and what it seems to be with Amazon, even though with Amazon they're spending considerably less money. And one thing that's kind of striking with regards to Picard season 2 is that we got the John Delancey bit, but we've seen on live television Picard asking Whoopi Goldberg to reprise her role, and she agreed to do that. And that there's no word on her.
I think she's been confirmed to be back, actually.
Yeah, but like we haven't even seen a promo image or anything of that nature. And you think we would, because again, Guinan and Q, that's a relationship that could be explored. Granted, they're probably going to do it terribly.
Of course they will.
Yeah.
But no, that's the thing with these shows. So you got to remember, like, a lot of them are, they do produce some shows, but I think a lot of them are just like, like the equivalent of like a negative pickup or whatever you would want to call it. I'm trying to think of how it works in Hollywood, but
there's like loss leaders. There's also
it's the fact that
relationships. Yeah.
Like, CBS didn't own The Big Bang Theory is what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah, they're just the financiers or the distributors.
Exactly, and that's what Amazon is in this sense. They don't have necessarily control per se. And again, it'll be interesting to see how things go forward, because we still haven't heard much about Star Trek Discovery season 4 yet either.
No, and the weird part is that I haven't heard anything about any ramp up. So I'm wondering if the production from November to, I think it would be April. It was that they finished. If that was season 4 and 5. Because that's
that was the rumor.
That is the rumor, yeah.
Or if not season 4 and 5, season 4 in a finale movie was the other rumor. Mr. Tickle Trunk says, we got 850 thumbs up in an hour and a half. We crushed it. Yes, we did, sir. And thank you so much for being a wrench and a cheerleader. We love you all for being here today. Disruptive Innovator says, ME is the best. Thanks, Time Script and Andre, for all you do. Well, I don't know about being the best, but we definitely try to be the best, and we appreciate that. And we hope you enjoyed the show. I think we're gonna wrap it up there. We've had a good hour and 40 minutes. I know it's a little short show, but it's Monday, and there wasn't a ton of news going on. And we lost Andre, and he had to go do some things, and that always sucks not to have Andre here. Makes us sad.
Well, who knows? If it's going to be slow at the start of the week, it means something big's going to happen by the mid.
I could do this, though, since he's not here. I would like to thank all of you for being here today. And with that, it is time for Koalas in the Rain. Tom?
Koalas in the rain, koalas in the rain, no fucks given. Koalas in the rain, koalas in the rain, no fucks given.